Biodynamic Gardening Report. Like the Surf Report, but for gardening by the moon. Hey, it's the Biodynamic Gardening Report. This is the new version.
The new report.
Yes. Hey, Ralph Johnson. We're here at your farm in San Luis Obispo County. How are you?
Doing good, doing good.
I like being here better than being at the market. I was getting a little tired of all the market sounds. We needed some different kind of ambience. So what do we have? We got some birds singing.
Yeah, off in the distance, the freeway, you can barely hear it, but we got birds singing around here, and that's about it. Not much.
Yep.
Pretty quiet out here.
Sweet. So we're not going to meet at the market in future. We're going to meet out and about. We'll come back here and touch base with you. Wow, it just looks great out here. We're in the middle of your field, standing amongst the pepper plants. What kind of pepper plants are we amongst?
More like some chilies right here, the way they look. I'm not sure which variety. They're just now flowering. They're starting to set fruit. So.
You don't remember what kind? You're very good note taker. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, peppers will tell you what they are when they get fruit on them.
Okay.
And I've got about 12 to 13 varieties. So
and they don't cross over. They are generally pretty true.
Peppers and tomatoes are self-pollinating, so they don't cross generally. I mean, you may get I wouldn't recommend saving seeds if you had a hot one right next to a sweet one and you wanted to save the sweet seed because they could potentially cross, but more than likely not.
Right. Gotcha. Cool. Yes, and so what else do we see here? Next row over, you got some dry farm tomatoes. And one of the things I wanted to talk to you about before we get into the report is tell us what you do, Mr. Biodynamic Farmer, to do dry farming and drought, or do farming and gardening for drought. What are some tactics?
Well, it's called water conservation. Basically, you want to make sure your ground's clean of weeds and everything in the wintertime and have it open up so they can get all the moisture it can. And then in the spring or late winter and spring, start working the upper part of the ground to keep all the weeds down and conserve any moisture down deep. And have a moisture dry base about 6 inches on top.
So I always thought that you might want to leave some plants because it kind of holds the soil together. But what they're doing is they're taking up the water that would have been saved or percolating down in.
They're competing for what you're going to plant, exactly.
Okay,
yes.
So weeding is important.
Yes, having a clean field. A lot of people want cover crops, but if you dry farm, it's pretty difficult to do a cover crop, unless your cover crop is dry farm too. So most cover crops are dry farmed.
What do you have out here that is coming back on its own that you didn't have to plant?
Oh, we got a whole bunch of quinoa up here, but some of it's like 5 foot tall. Usually the volunteer stuff is always bigger and better than the planted stuff, and I would say it's pretty much true because quinoa last year was about 4 foot. Most of us now is like 5 to 6 foot tall, and this wasn't planted. Now,
I helped you harvest that row of quinoa last year,
yes.
And I thought we captured every last little seed.
No.
It was kind of a sloppy system there, friends. Listeners, I'm not the world's greatest farm laborer, I'm sorry to say.
And it's hard, when you're harvesting seed, it's hard to harvest every single seed, unless you're doing like tomatoes or small seeds, larger seeds. But when you do small seeds, and you're harvesting millions and billions of them, it's, if you lose 1,000 or 2, no big deal.
No big, right. So cool. So you, in my garden, I have self-seeding tomatoes from our compost. I dumped a whole bunch of Principessa Borghese tomatoes and in the compost because I did them improperly and they started to mold, and they are now coming back germinating when they feel like it, when the time is right, and now I have like several new little plants. So you also said, going back to gardening and farming for drought, that working with the right kind of plants like dry farm tomatoes and the quinoa that is volunteer coming back. What are some other strategies for gardening for drought?
Beans will dry farm if you have a proper moisture content. Unfortunately, I only have 1 row of beans this year, and I lost some moisture before I could get them beans planted, so I had to irrigate them. And I do have 3 rows of peas, which were planted in dry. It took them a month to germinate. They all germinated well. But as they got about a foot tall, I said, well, I'd better start irrigating because they're going to die otherwise. And so for 1 row, I probably put on only 500 gallons of water for a 150-foot row, and the plants are about 4 foot tall.
They look pretty good.
That's only 3 irrigations.
Wow, cool. All right. Let's see. And then the last thing, actually, when I asked you as we were getting ready to start recording, I said, what's the strategies for dry farm? You said, don't plant too much. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah, especially if you're using well water, you want to cut back on your irrigation because if your well goes dry, imported water is extremely expensive to the point it won't be feasible it's not economical.
Right. That's what we see with the Morrow Creek Ranch avocado trees, because they were trucking in water there, and it becomes untenable after a certain point.
Oh, they spent over $1 million 1 year importing water.
Crazy. Okay, hey, give us the biodynamic report. We got an airplane flying overhead. and some more bird songs. And can you feel the sunshine?
Yeah, it's nice and warm. It's humid today. We had the little sprinkles last night.
Sprinkles. We were going to maybe record this in your greenhouse last night, but I wanted to come out here when it was beautiful. So we're recording this the day after the full moon, and that was yesterday, Wednesday. We are recording today on Thursday. And tell us, we are at the beginning of the third quarter. Is that correct?
Yes, we're in the third quarter right now. The third quarter began yesterday with after the full moon was full, and both July 1st, which is yesterday, and today, July 2nd, the moon's in Capricorn. It's a dry and productive sign, so it's good for root crops. And then right after that, 3rd and 4th, for 4th of July, it's dry and barren. It's an air sign of Aquarius. So basically, clean your gardens, put on your compost, things like that. So Aquarius is always a good time to do your composting work and everything. So good thing to do there. And then after that, on the 5th and 6th, we have the moon being in Pisces, which is a moist and very productive day. So being the third quarter is good for root crops right now.
Okay.
Let's see, where am I?
So you're about to give us the report for the following week, because we want to give, now that we're in the midst of the growing season, we want to give you more than just a couple days notice of what's to do in the next coming weeks. So this is every 2 weeks is the new Biodynamic Gardening Report. What's the following?
Well, July through the 7th through the 9th, the moon's in Aries, which is another barren, dry day.
And this is where the moon has moved into the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
is that correct?
the moon starts the fourth quarter on the 8th. So
on
right
the 8th
during
of July.
Yes. So right in the middle of this Aries, this becomes the fourth quarter. But Aries being it's a barren, dry day, so basically get rid of the pests, work ground, that kind of good stuff.
Okay.
And then right after that, the 10th and 11th, it will be Taurus. And being a fourth quarter is close enough to being near the third quarter. So if you really needed to, if you really had to, you could plant some root crops and things.
Okay.
And do a little transplanting occasionally. Then after that...
that was a bug.
It's a bug I was smashing. Yes, July the 12th and 13th, the moon will be in Gemini now. And it's an air sign, which is dry and barren. So
no me gusta en the jardín.
Yeah, so if you want to watch your seeds rot, plant them then. Okay. And then we end the fourth quarter, but it's real close to the new moon. The 14th and 15th, the moon is in Cancer. We are best days for planting and transplanting. And it's real good for leafy green things, and the new moon's on the 15th, so that's right close enough. The 14th will be a good day to plant your leafy green materials and all your new moon stuff.
Excellent. I always like knowing when it's time to plant the leafy greens.
Yeah, so this 2-week schedule hopefully it will make you so you can make your schedule for the farm a lot easier to do, because you can do things a lot more ahead of time.
Okay. Sketch it out, and on this post you are going to see the enhanced video that accompanies this podcast, this audio, and we are outlining the phases of the moon for the 2 weeks and the sections that it's moving through of the sky that are identified with the constellations and blah, 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 so that it starts to become a visual component or accompaniment to learning about the cycle of the moon in the garden.
Yeah, so we just completed the full moon to the new moon cycle. In 2 weeks, we'll be doing the new moon to the full moon cycle.
I like this setup a lot better, Ralph. I think it was a good place to get started on the market. Thanks, everyone, for letting us do that at the market.
Well, in this way, we get away from the Julian calendar and go more to the moon calendar, too, which is important.
Yes.
And it being 2 weeks, it gives you a better time to plan your schedule a lot better, instead of giving it 2 or 3 days saying, oh, I got to change my schedule because I got to plant this day and I've got this other stuff planned already. So,
well, hey, thanks for the report, and we will be talking again. We'll be recording again in a couple of weeks, and we have decided, where are we going to go? We're thinking about going up to Centrally Grown.
Yeah, I heard this. I've always heard good things about Centrally Grown, so it'd be fun to check it out.
That's up in Cambria, isn't it? So I hear that there's gardens, there's local to farm to table kind of food and experience, and we both enjoy a glass of wine. So let us go up there and record our next session there.
Sounds good.
Cool. I love seeing your farm. I'm going to take a few snaps now, and thanks again for showing us around. You have a good one. We'll talk to you soon.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, sooner than that. Talk to you later, Ralph.
Bye.
Bye.